Hey everyone, this is Queenie with Queenie and Ellen Book Talk Show. Today we have the breakdown of Brown's Daughters, and we have my co-host Ellen Sutter of Events, and we have our special guest Michelle Stimpson, one of the executive producers of the movie. Good afternoon. How are y'all?
Good, good, good,
Yes,
good.
thank you for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, Ellen, would you like to say something before I let Michelle speak? Or
Well,
you
thank
let
you,
Michelle
Michelle,
speak?
for being here. It's after looking at the movie, I must say, congratulations. You did a wonderful job. The cast, all of the cast, they played their parts, and I really like how everything went. As I told you earlier, I cannot relate to this because I had my father in my life, and I did have lots and lots of tears. I don't think I could have cried any more because I'm not in touch with this. So thank you so much for letting not only just well, the Christian world know about pain. We try to hide this type of pain because we know that we are Christian, but we do need to get in touch with our natural father. So, as you said earlier, so that we can move forward. So,
Right.
thank you for that.
Thank you. It was definitely a labor of love. Everybody on the set, everybody, even the cinematographer, that team was bought into the message and understood the importance, particularly in our community, for reconnecting fathers with children, even after many many years have passed. So we're excited to see what it's doing in people's lives.
Good job. Great, great, great.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know. Look like Queenie has she froze. Um,
You got the
while Queenie is doing that, hopefully we both reign. All of us reign from different states. I'm in Newport News, Virginia, and I believe Michelle, you're in Texas,
I'm yes.
and Queenie is in Carolina. I wanted to pull from what I had gathered from watching the movie. I had to take some good notes, and as I said earlier, there was some good notes and some good tears. Um, Mr. Brown, there's one of the things that I really did look at. I mean, um, I know him being a grown man and going, being with his mom, or he's at his mom's house, or she's at his house, and I commend him for that. But then it raised my eyebrow as to I was wondering, how did he get there? How did he get there, being a grown man and yet still taking care of his mother? I commend him for that, but not standing on his own feet. I guess I'm asking kind of Queenie the same thing, and you can just give us the real on it.
Yeah. So and this is, let me just back up and say that this movie is based on the book Deacon Brown's Daughters, and of course the book always gives you more than the movie will, right? But and you kind of gather, if you watch the movie, that Stanley has kind of lived this Rolling Stone type of a lifestyle, where he has just gone from woman to woman, and women, he might go home and then he'll get another one, and Stanley keeps a woman. He keeps a woman who will keep him, right? And I actually know people like that who are grown in their what I'm thinking about is in their 40s, and they keep a woman, but they go from woman to woman, and there are a lot of us who will keep a man, who will provide for a man just so long as he will be in our lives at some level. And so that's what he has been doing all of his life.
That's true. I was thinking about his mother, and Queenie, I hope you get a chance to chime in as well because you took a lot of, thought on looking at the movie. Um, I felt at one time that the mother should have, in some way, Um, I think from I hope everybody's seen the movie. I'm not trying to give so much away, but I think from gathering from her mother's personal feelings, I kind of felt that she didn't bring him in close enough as to say, "Hey, baby, you really need to early on. You really need to get in touch with them babies." It seems like each mother in there had their own personal hurt that they raised their children to hurt the same way without giving them a chance to even know their father with their own perspective.
Right, right. I agree with you. That's something that she should have done earlier, but it would have almost been hypocritical because she didn't do that for her own child.
Yes.
You know, she didn't do that for her own child, and I don't know that she even necessarily knew how to do it at that point in her life. I think you learn and you grow and you look back and you go, I should have done this differently. And then those of us with adult children know that you can tell your grown child to do something and they may not do it.
That's true. Queenie?
I want to talk about it at the beginning. Like I said, I watched it 4 times, but what the sticky note had said, FYI, sorry, sucker, which is not really funny, but for her, Rhonda, to send Stanley the obituary in the mail, I think that was, I felt some way, I guess. I am sort of in those situations right now, but I don't know. It's just, I thought that was very foul.
Oh, it was. It was. I mean, she absolutely was so hurt and so disappointed. And I will tell you, in that time in my life, actually, we taped in January of 2018. So those were the months leading up to my mother passing in May of 2018. So as we're filming, I'm losing my mother, right? And she passed away in early May, right around the time that we finished filming. And I remember thinking, all these people that come out of, I mean, not our close family, but all these people that come out of the woodwork after somebody dies, that's, for the person who was there, it's almost insulting. Like, where were you all of these years? Yeah. And so there was this expectation, like, you didn't even call me, you didn't tell me. I'm like, you knew my mother was sick for the past 6 years and you haven't even sent up, you haven't been to see her not once, so why would I be calling you? And so it kind of made its thoughts into the, those are the main ones that be crying over the casket and falling out, and you haven't even been there. So that experience kind of led itself to what Rhonda did, because if you haven't been there, you can't come at the last minute trying to run stuff.
It really hurt in a way not in a way, it did hurt to hear how his mother didn't even know his kids, and he kept saying, well, what was his name, and kept referring to him. And it seems like she kind of was saying, you're dead to that, don't even try to grieve now, because she didn't allow him to grieve when he said, look, mama, his name is so and so. You know how he said his name. And to me it made me feel like he was trying to grab some type of bearings as to, I really wasn't there, at least, give me a little something more. Than this. But what was he due? When you got to look about what was due to him, being that, I hate to say it harshly like that, but what was due to him?
That's a good question. What is due to a father who wasn't there? I mean, do you even deserve a spot in the obituary? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that was hard. And he was 22 years old.
I don't know.
Trying to find his way.
Even though you said something about, but he knew about, well, his mama knew about the girls, like she didn't know about the boy.
I think everybody knows that Stanley's been around.
You know,
Stanley might have more kids than what we know today. The truth, if you really want to know the whole truth. Everybody knows somebody we found out about later on in life, right? So
Right.
I don't think that she could keep up with all his escapades.
Well, let me ask you a question, Michelle. Why wasn't him out just over the phone? Why wasn't Emily, his sister, brought out?
Oh, in the book, Emily,
Because she had, yeah.
So in the book, Emily was taking care of their mother because she's not well. His sister was taking care of her mother
Right.
for a long time and had lived there, but Emily just got married. So her husband, that he ended up needing to move with his job. That's really how Stanley got back there full time because his mother needed somebody there full time.
That's right.
And Emily's kind of like, look, I've been doing this all my life. Can you step in? And now Stanley's at a point as a responsible adult to be able to do that. So I think what comes out more in the book is, again, that she recognizes that there's been a change in Stanley and she can actually depend on him to come home and take care of mom. A lot of eldest siblings, a lot of daughters kind of find themselves in that spot of, taking care of mama. You might have 7 brothers and sisters, but you may be the only one, who's really stepping up. But again, that change in Stanley's life, I think, is starting to show, and the people who love him most recognize that about him, because of what Christ has done in his life.
It seemed like each woman except Sabrina's mama just longed to have him. She didn't have a bitter spot for him. She just always wanted the man. Mm-hmm. And the other women, they were just really bitter. And I'm trying to think of the other girls. The one that was really the oldest one.
Oh, Yolanda's mother's Gwen.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Yolanda's mother, her name is Gwen.
Yes, Yolanda's mother. She just really wrote him off, and she did the same with her children. Mm-hmm. Yolanda did the same with her children, just wrote the man off. And just because, again, she mentioned the legacy of having, I didn't think that was a good legacy, but it's true. The legacy of having a women that was always single and no man. And you see that.
Right. Generation after generation.
Yes. And right. I thought that was so wrong. It maybe opened my eyes. So anybody else is listening or seen that movie, what you brought to the table on that scene is for women to do better. We need to do better. And I was thinking about this earlier. You know how he had so many baby mamas, but yet the women, they have a lot of baby daddies, but we don't look at them in that light that way. We just say you got a lot of baby daddies. But when it's the man do that, we look down on him harder than the woman with different baby daddies.
Well, and I think too, part of Stanley back up and say that it's as much, like you're saying, it's a two-way street, right? And so it's not just that she has all these baby daddies, it's that he has all these baby mamas. And
exactly.
Part of what I wanted to bring out in this, having been 21 and married a man who at the time was not caring for the child that he already had, and then making 2 more babies with my husband. Now we're adults and we're over all that stuff now. But at 21 years old, it didn't cross my mind to think, you know what, he doesn't even take care of the one he got. Why would I make 2 more? It didn't cross my mind to say, yes, you know what, the time you're spending chasing me, you need to spend that on your kids. It never crossed my mind to think of this as a character issue. I just thought, because I was hearing
and Debbie told
story, huh?
She's mentioned Debbie.
Debbie told him that.
She did tell him that. She did tell him that.
I love
I wish that more, and not to give men, not to let men off the hook, because I think they need to stay on the hook. But I think as women, the solidarity that we have to be able to say, oh, no, you burnt the last 2 kids. No, you just fix that first. I can't even deal with you when I see how you treat kids, because in 5 years, it's going to be me.
Mm-hmm. But you got some people that do that. Remember the singer Mary J. Blige? She was with the man. In her song, she had that he hide his kids. He didn't even tell her about the 3 kids that he had. And so you got people that do that. They don't. I mean, I understand that you date. You shouldn't be exempt from dating because you have kids. But maybe I'm just old-fashioned cut. I think that if you come in a relationship and the person has a baby, I think that your eyes need to be open that this is a whole relationship. And now, I'm not saying now you're a baby mama, but you have to have baby mama mindset because you got somebody that has kids. And like I say, I might be old fashioned or something like that, but I think that you should be aware of making him more so, like Debbie did in there, responsible for his kids more than he like you or whoever that other person is, whoever bring the kids in. And I guess I'm just old fashioned like that when you're having a relationship with kids.
Right.
Because I think so many dangerous things happening now and happen then, but more now with just loving without the kids.
Yeah, I think we need to pay attention to those patterns, you know, what people are doing, and to say no, to just say, I don't do that. I had a cousin of mine, she was like, she didn't want to date nobody who already had kids, period. You know, that was her standard. And so to just be like, if I never hear you say, I can't go out with you this weekend because I got my kids. If I never hear you say that, that's a red flag for me as a woman, or it should be anyway. But I don't know if we're teaching our girls that. I don't know if we're looking at that whole thing, or we just might just be falling in love and not even thinking about all those other things. That's what I do. I was 21.
I'm gonna read some of the comments. Okay, I'll read some of the comments. Pauletta says, hi, Michelle.
Hey.
Alethea says hello. And then Alethea, it's sad how some people lie about their children. Used to feel because I didn't have a child. I know people who lie say their child is their brother or sister. Wow.
That's a new one.
That's a new lie right there. Hey.
Wow.
Maybe it's new to me. Wow.
Okay. Let's talk about. Let me ask you this, Michelle. I'm trying to make sure I got this right. Okay, when Yolanda took the 3 kids over to Mama Effie's house to borrow the money for the light bill, when her dad came out, Papa came out, was her window rolled up and she was talking to her daddy through the window, or was it rolled down?
In my mind,
it looked like it was rolled up.
I think he was kind of leaning on the edge and talking to her through that window. That's what I think it was.
And she didn't roll it down. I didn't think she rolled it down.
You might not roll it down.
Like, wow, she didn't roll it.
I think she was talking because I remember being on the ledge, like a little bit. I was thinking about rolling it up on him actually, but I wasn't the director.
Oh. Okay, what about the interview for the Deacon board?
Woo! I got that fired up right here.
That is my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yes, mine too.
Oh my goodness! So let me just brag on the actors right quick.
Yes,
those I want to say 3 of those actors were kind of got in there at the last minute, because when we originally took that scene, we had a different deacon who was the head deacon, and we ended up firing him from the whole movie. And then we had to reshoot that scene. But the person who shot it the second time was so much better than the first one. We were so happy. But yes, he went all the way in on that prayer.
Yes.
Lord help her. He said the Father, he said the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end. I'm like, come on now, hurry up.
Valley.
And then the guy looked at him. Yeah, the little valley.
Yes,
that's like hilarious. He was shading him too. He shading him in the middle of his prayer. He was shading him, and he said something about lying.
We know
those lies. Shade. Using
prayer to attack. So people do that.
You know that's called praying at somebody. You ain't even praying to God at this point. You just praying at somebody. Lord,
I like that scene. I really like that Deacon scene. That was my next thing that I wanted to ask you about that. I really like how each one played their part, especially the main. I guess he's the main deacon, the one that had to. You did like natural, spiritual, and hopefully you know what I'm saying. The head deacon, he was more spiritual.
Right.
Let's do it God's way. Whereas the other deacon, he just was ready to lay hands on him.
Right.
He brought everything in. But you did need both of those balance, because you did need to do this with your heart, but still don't let your heart get you in trouble to where you're not focused on the main thing.
Yeah.
But I really like how that was played out.
Thank
Because
you.
that was a beautiful scene. That was a beautiful scene. I know, with me, I am old Pentecostal, and you know how you Baptist folks, y'all pull y'all pistols out. I don't know if you Baptist.
I didn't know a Baptist.
But that was definitely a Baptist meeting.
Well, you know what? It's interesting that you say that, because the way that scene was set up, you have Stanley on one side of the table. You have all the people trying to attack him on the other side of the table.
Yes.
And you have that guy who's in the middle, physically in the middle of the table. And so that physical setup of that scene led into the tension that was going to happen between those two sides of the table. And so we shot that with that in mind.
That was really good.
I can't read
that.
Let me see.
So applaud your work with your heart. I'm glad I can see it on the screen.
Oh, thank you, Paulette. Hey, all right. Thank you.
That was raw and realistic. Yes, it was. It was raw and realistic. That, I mean,
funny to me.
Played the part. That played the part. I really liked it. The scene at the door, like, I don't remember the other lady name, but I do remember Debbie.
Okay.
I love Debbie. And then that one girl with the blonde hair, that was when they were outside talking about, you better watch him. You better watch his life about him. So with her doing that, that let me know, that let me see that although you might be a Christian or call yourself a churchgoer Christian, that people do still, whether they're in the church or outside the church, they hold people's sins to them.
Yeah.
Until they feel they see better. And that's one thing what the head deacon did not do. He knew what was going on, and all the other deacons wanted him to cut to the chase, but he wanted to allow space and time for repenting.
Right.
I like that.
And that's one of the themes of the movie is that forgiveness, the opportunity to repent. I mean, Stanley has done a lot of dirt. He's done a lot of wrong. He's messed over a lot of women and broken a lot of hearts and left a lot of children in the wake of all of that. And a lot of us have done things that we, in retrospect, realize that was just wrong all the times around. But at what point, how many times can you say, I'm sorry? At what point can we move on? I don't know. It's a hard place to be. I have a person that I mentor, and she wasn't there for her kids growing up. She was in the streets like Stanley, and her daughter is now 30 something. And they're starting to build a relationship, but every so often she just has these flashbacks and she just goes off for weeks at a time without contacting, because she has to kind of calm herself back down after that. The daughter. So I don't know what that's like. I don't know how long you give somebody to forgive you, but they need that space, I think. But how many times did you say I'm sorry?
So did you kind of use what you just said when it relates to Yolanda? Because it took her a while, and I like that. Did you kind of base that feeling off that lady that you just spoke of? And now Yolanda's 30 years old. It took her a long time.
That's a long time to be angry. And here's the thing between Yolanda and Kim, because they have two different responses of this.
Yes.
Yolanda did not grow up with Kim had a father. She clearly has never wanted for anything. She's in college. She apparently has had these supports in place and didn't necessarily miss Stanley at some level. But Yolanda, that's not the case with her. I can imagine she went without plenty of things. She probably wore secondhand clothes to school. She probably wanted to play orchestra, but her mama couldn't afford a violin. all these different things that where she would have said to herself, especially with her mama the way that she was, that she would have said to herself, if my daddy would have been here, I could have done this. If my daddy would have been here, I would have had that. And so she's had 30 years to build up that animosity. And like I said, with her mother being who she is, her mama told her all kind of stuff. About, well, I can't afford it because your dad ain't even, your daddy ain't about nothing. So all of that put them in two different spots to receive Stanley or not receive Stanley. And so with regard to the person that I was mentioning earlier, I do think that having other people whispering in the child's ear about how awful that parent is definitely makes it harder to forgive.
I think that Yolanda, when she started looking at her kid and her oldest son,
that boy,
OMG.
Yeah, that's
and the lies after lies, what she told him. And he called her out on the carpet. Her son called her out on the carpet as to why is this going on? And my friend, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a hard spot. And I have another book called Last Temptation, where the mother was talking about, we can judge a mother who's lying to her child. But at the end of the day, you're not the one who was there when your baby was sitting on that couch with their backpack ready to go meet their father, and they fell asleep on the couch waiting.
Yes.
You were not there. You don't know what that felt like. And so we can say, well, she shouldn't have lied to him. But at some level, you have to recognize she was protecting her son from what he might have done. So I can't judge that. I've never been in that position. But I've heard from mothers who say, until you see your child fall asleep waiting on their daddy, you don't understand that.
Right. And I don't understand that. I wanted to talk about the barbershop. There was a lot of things going on in that barbershop.
You got to have a barbershop scene in the Black Man movie. You know that.
I love the conversation. And I love one of the barbers, what he said. And he said he had a relationship with all of his kids. He said, don't get it mixed up because you and her is not together, that you can't parent. That was just a big key part in that. We have people that have relationships and all they had was sex and never a relationship. And they want to build sex off of a relationship when they didn't have anything. And I think that is wrong to, and I may have done it too in different things, but I think that it opened my eyes that it is wrong to, like you say, whisper into the ear of your child and to have that child, because of your hurt, to think about the father like that. And that other character that said he never knew his father, his kids don't know him, and he don't care. If he saw his father, he would beat him down. And he had to tell him, the barber had to tell him, hey, your kids might want to do you like that too.
Right.
So I really like that barber scene.
Yeah, that was a big one for us. First of all, you can't have a movie about Black men without a barbershop. You gotta have a barbershop scene. But again, I think there's definitely something to be said about being in those shoes and walking that walk before anybody judges any of that stuff. Because I've been on the other end of it, not knowing my father, my biological father anyway. I think it's just hard. What I wanted to do with Stanley was to take him out of this stereotypical deadbeat dad and make him a real person, because something had to be happening in his life. Something went wrong with him, with his village, that he wasn't able to be there for his kids.
Yeah, and so those who watch the movie, I'm not trying to give away a lot of spoilers, but I see from seeing the movie as to why he could never be with his father.
His father
could never be with his father. So, like you say, his mama protected.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? For that reason, and telling her granddaughters, "This is what I've done."
Right. This is the little world I've built to protect my baby. And I think that we have to give single mothers, some grace in how they orchestrate what works for their children. because you have some kids that you could just tell them, I'm sorry your father's not here, and they would move on. But then you have some kids who are like, would internalize that and say, well, what is wrong with me that my father isn't here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Alethea says, I was that child. I was that child wishing I had my father in my life, and it hurts. It does. It really does.
Right. It makes you question a lot of things about yourself, your identity. And I was sharing with Ellen earlier that if you didn't have a good relationship with your earthly father, it can complicate your relationship with your heavenly father. If you don't have that point of reference for a loving father, what that even looks like, or what that even feels like, or what it means to say, I'm gonna tell my daddy. If you've never had this, if you've never got the chance to say that, it feels different.
And see, as I told Queenie and you, I don't know what that feels like. I never had to experience that. We were a family of 11. I'm not saying Dad was perfect, but we would, when Daddy come home, all of us, some on his arm, on his leg, and we just grab onto him, and we all walking in the house. And we grew up. We didn't have much. We walk in there, and some of the people from his job would give him food, that they ate. We got all these kids, and we're like, I want lunch number 1, Daddy. I want lunch number 2. I want lunch number 3. And he would give us some of the things, just saved it and brought it home and ate with us. So anything, he was right there. That's why I don't understand, because my dad was always there, ran track with us, played ball with us. He was just always there. And so I will never understand that. And like I say, my dad passed, so I still have the love and the memories. So I don't know. I don't know. And then I'm so glad that he didn't. My mom is deaf. I think I told you that. My mom was born deaf. She's deaf mute. So I would never want to be in none of those circles that Yolanda or Kim or Sabrina had to go through. That would have been devastating to have 11 kids, husband gone, and mom came here and talk. Oh, God knew better. He didn't allow that to happen.
Yeah. It's definitely something that I think a lot of us have been. Thankfully, you have not had that experience, and we need more people who have not had that experience. But I do think a lot of us have, unfortunately. And so, if you've never had your mama stay, wait till your daddy get home. You don't even know what that means. But I know it means something different, because with my kids, if I just, there's just something about daddy that's like different from mama.
I know.
All together. I want to back up too, though. You were talking earlier about the barbershop scene, and how we've, part of the message of the movie is that, you do want to be able to let your kids know, your children need an opportunity to get to know their father, even if things didn't work out with the two of you. But I will tell you that that's easier said than done. And the reason I know that is not because I've had the experience myself, but watching my daughter, who is now a single mother. And I'm like Grandma Gigi, like I'm all up in my granddaughter, like she's like my heart. And knowing how the things haven't gone the way that they should have gone with my daughter, and the child's father. It's like when he does show up, at one point it was this way. I can't say it's this way now. But when he did show up, it's like he was trying to be Santa Claus to me. You don't get to be Santa Claus like that. I didn't realize how angry I was going to be. It ain't even my child. But it was hard to, not that I wasn't saying anything bad about him, but it was hard to receive whatever he was trying to give, because it felt like he was just trying to come in and be Santa Claus. And like, you don't get to be Santa Claus if you haven't been here all this time. Like, there was a part of me that was like, I'm going to have to recognize that this is, she doesn't know all this about him. To her, he is Santa Claus at some level. Because she was little, she's still little. But I didn't realize how hard that was going to be.
Sabrina mom, I want to bring her back into the picture, because you have Sabrina's mom, who wanted this man for herself, who was very seductive to him. I'm so glad he passed that temptation. I was like, Michelle, please don't let that happen to him. I was so glad that the temptation played out the way it is. So what's her deal? Tell us about her deal and her Sabrina's mom.
Well, Sabrina is kind of like, we'll take it or leave it with Stanley. Like, we can whatever you want to do is fine with me. But I think her mother is that one, and Stanley's just the one that she wanted to be with. I mean, he's just the one that got away. In the book, it was a little bit different between her and him and how they broke up. She probably wouldn't have wanted him as much. I don't know. She did kind of want him still. But as far as the movie goes, she just wanted to be with him for however that looked. And I do think that there are people who are just like, as long as I have you in my life, I don't care if I'm your side chick. I don't care if I'm your wife. I don't care. However we can make that work, let's just make it happen.
I've seen some people. But what was Sabrina's mom telling her? Because I'm trying to figure out if you in love with him and you're searching for him and you want him in life. Your daughter, she's so bitter when you like this man this much. What's going on? That's what I
remember. What did she? I don't remember what she told him. I don't think she told him anything bad about Stanley. I think she was just kind of Sabrina to me was kind of indifferent about the whole thing. Sabrina didn't even hardly listen to her mama in the movie. She's ignoring her mama and everybody else in the movie. Sabrina's in her own world because her mother was like trying to tell her, "You gonna listen to me? You gonna talk to me?" And she was like, yeah, teenagery kind of.
Totally ignored her.
And I think where Sabrina is in life, she's kind of in this nonchalant teenage mode anyway. So it must be that she had this hurt, but she just wasn't able to express it as a young lady at that point. I'm trying to remember the book and maybe you remember better than I do, Queenie, because I haven't read the book in I don't know how long. What happened?
Yeah, I'm going to read the book. I got the book, but I haven't read it. I wanted to see the movie first so I could have something to compare with movie versus the book. So I wanted to look at that.
I'm trying to even remember why. I think somebody said that Valerie was just thirsty. That's the word. One of my fans. She's thirsty. You can't explain thirsty. You be thirsty. You just thirsty. You need a drink.
She was thirsty, but she seemed like she should have poured some type of love into her daughter since she was
Valerie is all about it.
It became sickening to her daughter. I mean, she's like, you want to be all like that. You don't need to come to that party. When Kim had her party.
But Valerie is like that. Valerie's self-centered, as you can tell, because she's like,
and then you remember when he said he was saved, and she said something about he said Jesus. She's talking about the Savior.
Yes.
The person who played that part, her name is Latricia. I had just met her that day on the set. She played that role so well. She knocked that out of the park. And it was so funny. I have to tell you, we were taping at a preacher's home, that scene. And Stanley had not met her before that day either, in real life. The real Stanley, Ray Son, had not met her before that day. I think we had somebody else for the role, and something happened. So we ended up with her and Stanley. He had not met her before that day either. And so, so the chemistry we had, thankfully, it kind of worked with their chemistry on set, right? And so anyway, Stanley, we were finished with the scene. We had cut the scene, and Stanley was still there with his pants, like, yeah, girl, because you don't know what I got under this belt. He was all doing all that stuff. Well, the preacher was standing right behind him.
I was wondering about that, but it didn't show in the movie, but I was wondering about that.
Yes, it was hilarious. Stanley was so embarrassed. He was like, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to take it that far. We had a lot of fun on set. We really, really did. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. We enjoyed it.
You remember when like when Kim, let's see, Kim be a father, but didn't accept it. Okay, you remember when I think they were all, it was Kim, Grandma Neffy, and Yolanda was sitting at the table at Mama Neffy's house, and Kim said that he was not ready to be a father, but Yolanda could not accept that fact. That hit me like a ton of bricks. That made me proud. Oh, so my father wasn't ready to raise children, but he married my mama. So
yeah, that's two different things, though.
That hit home.
Yeah, I think that's two different things. I mean, getting married, having children, raising children, that's three different things altogether. And I think, you know, after some time passes, like I'm realizing now, I'm almost 50. When I look back and realize how young my father was, how young my mother was, I'm like, they had no business having me. Right? When you realize that your parents were once teenagers, they were once young, they were once in their 20s. You know, you start to recognize that, you know what, they now that my kids are the same age I was when I got married and started having kids, I'm like, oh Lord, what would they think? What was I thinking? What, you know, what were we thinking at that age a lot of times, right? That's kind of where Stanley was.
I like what Kim did. Kim took the initiative in being the bigger parent, if you want to say it that way, or the bigger daughter. And she really just like you said, you know, my dad was young. She rationalized things and went to the root versus whatever is going on around it. And even in taking that selfie and giving it to her sister. But what I looked at too was Kim, her stepfather, and her mother. I like the scene when at the party, it was like, what's Kim's mom name? I didn't catch her name.
I'm trying to remember the woman's name.
Well, Kim, Jerry?
Sherry.
Okay. Sherry. Okay. Sherry, to me, had that big old moment where she wanted to show off her man, but not just quite yet. It seemed like she hadn't seen him in so long that she wanted to fire up on him, then introduce her man. Yeah. But I like the way her husband sat back a little and he let her be her. And then he calmed it down by being man to man, you know, thank you. And I really like the fact that how you show how Stanley said, thank you for raising my daughter. Thank you for being there. Whatever you did to get her to this point, she didn't need me for whatever it was there. And then let's go back a little bit how Kim said, I'm glad that God had it this way for you not to be in my life. The damage that I would have had, he prevented me from having that and put this man in my life. And now I'm ready for you.
Yeah.
I'm ready to be in your life now.
Yeah. Kim's faith
Loved it.
Her faith played a big part in how she was able to reconcile so quickly. And recognizing that no matter what your mama does or doesn't do, no matter what your daddy does or doesn't do, you still have Romans 8:28 that all things work together for the Lord and called according to his purpose. So when you know that and you can stand on that, you might have a whole crazy family, right? Of people who don't do what they're supposed to do in your village. But you have to recognize that faith will get you through that and help you see how God, even if nobody else was there, how God was there. And I will tell you that one thing that happened with this movie, actually when the book came out, I had a friend of mine who wanted to interview me for the book. She had a show much like Queenie. And I said to her, okay, I'm going to invite my father, my biological father, to the show because he and I have this weird kind of a strange, more or less relationship. It's getting better. I will say that. I'm learning him and getting to know him a lot better as an adult. But I had questions that I wanted to ask him, but me being my little Southern polite self, I didn't want to ask him myself. So I asked this other person in the interview to ask him these questions. These are questions I've had over 40 years.
Oh, wow.
So in the name of interviewing for Deacon Brown's Daughters, she asks him these questions about our relationship, right? And in the course of this live interview, I learned that my father was involved in Vietnam. Like he was actually a soldier during Vietnam. And when he came back, he was basically a zombie. I did not know that about my father. I never did the timeline to figure out, okay, if I was born in this year and he was in the military, I knew that, like, it never hit me that he had been in Vietnam. And I realize now that he had been suffering from PTSD, and he realizes it now. But I didn't know that then. And I don't even think we had a diagnosis back then. So
No, they didn't.
And so in that interview, I'm like him, recognizing that whatever demons were chasing him, I didn't need them chasing me too.
Mm-hmm.
and how the Lord protected me from that, and even protected him as he was walking to finding out, getting back to being a human being.
Yeah.
Well, I have two things. Let's talk about the character Bernie.
That was me. Okay, I'm sorry.
When I seen the movie, I heard him call Michelle. I stopped him. I said, Michelle,
That was me.
is that you? Bernice don't play. Bernice just letting them have it. She didn't care.
She did, Mama B.
That was my Mama B outfit right there. Because I've played Mama B a couple of times, and that was all my Mama B stuff.
Did good and remembered all those lines, and they were gonna get you.
Woo, let me tell you something. Acting is hard. I did not realize how hard it was, because I don't know if you guys have been on a movie set. That was my first time really being on a movie set. Well, my second time. Like, you have to shoot the scene 4 different times, even if everything goes well, because you got to shoot it once with the camera facing me. You got to shoot it once with the camera facing them. You got to shoot it once with the camera on the side, getting both of them. Like, you have to shoot it 4 different times from all these angles. And then when you make the movie, you take the best, like you piece them and cut them all together. And so yeah, you got to remember the lines like a lot, and you got to do it over and over again. And there's like 20 people in the room at the same time watching you do this live.
Wow. Writing this book.
Alethea say acting is fun.
Oh, child, you have it. You can have it. You can have all of it.
Michelle, in writing this movie, you pretty much said a little bit of it, but what did you want your audience to get out of writing this movie, and what was your whole takeaway for us?
Yes, it really is that theme of forgiveness and restoration. And that even if you've done wrong for a long time, if you are serious about making a change and you are in a better place now, to go ahead and make those apologies and go ahead and reach out, and go ahead and go ahead and let somebody else know, I appreciate how you stepped in when I wasn't there. You know, these are important conversations to have with the people who stood up for you, who stood up when you didn't. And also, you know, to recognize that your parents are people too.
Yeah.
Looking back over it, you'll look back later and go, man, they were 22, man. That was a different time, right, for them. So to recognize that grown-ups, just because they laid down and made a baby did not mean they were ready for the consequences of that.
Yeah.
And to give them some grace, because parents are people too.
That's true. Because I know we all are women and we've had our babies. I know when I first had my first child, I believe I was 24, I think I was. And the first thing, that reality of life set in when I knew I was pregnant. It just seemed like, wow, I have to protect her. And at the same time, what I heard is like when men find out, they want to run away. Some of them. You know, when they find out the onset of pregnancy, they felt like, you know, too young, get rid of it, don't have it, where we want to hold on to it as a part of us. I don't know if it's because it's living in us that we take those ownership of, you know, immediately snapping into being a mom and those different emotions that we go through.
Well, I don't know. I think there are some women for whom mothering doesn't come naturally. There are a lot of women who maybe even feel guilty because it's not something that's coming naturally. Maybe they weren't mothered, and maybe they didn't have mothering skills themselves. I know it hit me that I was somebody's mama. Like late, my baby was maybe 5 or 6 weeks old, and I had to make bottles at like 2 in the morning because I had not figured out yet that you need to make those bottles before you go to bed. Like, it just hit me that my whole life was different, and that it wasn't my life anymore.
Right.
That was so hard for me to just wrap my mind around, because you're used to getting up, getting yourself dressed, combing your own hair, and leaving and doing what you want to do. Now all of a sudden you got to pack a bag for somebody else. That did not hit me as a good thing. when I was 21 years old. It I felt like I had lost my life at 21.
Mhm.
Thankfully I didn't do anything silly, or I wasn't overcome by depression with that thought. But I remember it hitting me and it not feeling good.
Michelle, what would you say to the mothers out there, those viewing and watching this, especially as it relates to the movies, regardless of how they feel in bridging that relationship with their children. Now, I'm not talking about when somebody is dangerous for your life
Right.
and you know that your child is in danger. I'm speaking of when you know that you're just only hurting and you want to take this child out of that man's life because you're hurting. What would you
Right.
say to those moms?
I think that particularly when I'm thinking about Yolanda and her mother and the generational curse that it really has come down to, that at some level to think not just of yourself, but recognize what patterns and what character, what are you breaking? What traditions might you be breaking in a good way, so that the next generation doesn't have to suffer
Mhm.
maybe what you suffered, maybe what your own child suffered. So that we got to think beyond just ourselves. Like, this impacts generations to come, right? This is the legacy that we're leaving behind for the next generation. So if we can take that perspective, and even that eternal perspective, this will help your child develop his relationship with the Heavenly Father even better. Even if he just understands the difference between, okay, this is how you don't do stuff, and this is how God is. Just to be able to have a point of reference is going to be helpful for any child. But it really does come down to recognizing that, there are people whose fathers did not live to be there for them. And the Lord said in his word, I wish I had the scripture up here, that he would be a father to those who do
Yes.
father. And so to lean on that more than anything else.
Queenie?
Hmm? I want to talk about one more part before it hit home. It hit home. Two parts. Let me not Kim. Yolanda, when Jesse came back into Dante and Zoe, and I can't think of her other son, Yolanda's other son. When Jesse came back into their life, and him and Yolanda was sitting on the couch, and he said, "Are you good?" And the mama hollered, "Light bill, gas bill, toothpaste, toothbrush, toothpaste."
Right. I love that scene. She did that. She did. That sounds like something my mama would say.
Oh my God, that is right on point.
She did, because you do need all that stuff when you raise kids. I was on Facebook yesterday, and people were talking about child support during the coronavirus. And people are like, yeah, what if, we can't pay child support? Okay, just your child still is eating without the coronavirus. They're quarantined, they probably eat more. So yeah, just because whatever you have, right? And even in Stanley's case, even if you don't have anything, your presence, just calling to say, "Are you okay, baby? I'm sorry that you're stuck at home right now, but Daddy's just gonna call and just say good night to you or good morning to you. Can you read me a book? What you reading? What are you learning in your homeschool? Just not in a way that you're following up on the mother, but just to let the child know that you care. That's what they're gonna remember more than anything else.
Yeah, and even since you mentioned that, Queenie, even with Jesse, it was very hurtful that Yolanda's mom kept the number for so long. I don't know how so long was, but he wasn't a deadbeat dad to me. Jesse was not a deadbeat dad. He wanted to be very involved. Maybe not very involved in the relationship with them two together, but he wanted to be involved with his kids. And you see that a lot where men want to be involved, again, with that hurtful feeling of what they feel about that man, they keep the child away. And you show how very devastating that can be for the children.
Right. And here's the thing I think too. I think that there might be some miscommunications about what being very involved means, right? So to me, being very involved is, I need you to pick them up on Tuesday and Thursday and take them to soccer practice. But his idea of very involved is I'll be there when I can. See, that's not gonna work for me. Like, to me, that's not very involved. But some people are like, whatever he can do, whatever time, whenever he wants to be Santa Claus. See, then I have issues. But again, I would have to just step back and go, is it better? Is it better that we have a Santa Claus than nothing at all? I don't know what that looks like. So that comes down to communication, I think, because I think a lot of people are just like, I tried to be there. What does that mean? I tried to send diapers. That's
True.
like, are we on the same page with what it means for you to be there? And that's a communication issue.
I like that. I like that.
Okay,
Yes.
I need to ask the question, Michelle, before
Yeah.
we go. Not trying to give any spoilers, but
I think I give away
Henry.
all the spoilers probably.
Henry.
Yes, Henry Jeffrey.
Henry owned homes, but he didn't go to church.
Mm-mm.
That
No.
was kind of weird to me.
Yeah, I think you can own some funeral homes and not. I mean, it was his family business, so he could be, just
Well, yeah,
he
yeah.
could be handling the book. What'd you say?
Well, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It just kind of hit me like, oh, he don't go to church. He in the funeral home business.
Well, I think.
And I felt sorry for.
Say that again.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think
Go
he
ahead.
might. He could have relationships with pastors and meet with them in terms of funeral needs.
Yeah.
You can go to funeral every Saturday and not go to church on Sunday. Some people count going to a funeral as their church.
Oh wow.
How do I know this? Because I did. When I had stopped, I had about an 8-year period when I had stopped going to church. That's a whole other story. But when I would go to a funeral, I was like, "Ooh, that's good. I'm counting that because I heard somebody sing and I heard a message."
Woo! That's a new one on me. That's a new one.
I counted it. I'm telling you.
Woo!
But I'm gonna say this for no one not watched it. Make sure you have your box tissues, please. And if you don't want nobody to see your ugly cry,
yes, because even if it's not you may know somebody. Yeah, you might know somebody. I mean, if you're a teacher, you probably have some students who are going through this. You may have coworkers. You may have somebody in your family. You don't even know why they're so angry. They don't even know why they're so angry. Things could be, brewing for generations that need to be addressed. And I hope that this film will cause people to enter that prayer closet and to come out with some for what needs to happen moving forward. I mean, you can give feedback, but how do you give feed forward? Like, we can't change the past. I wish you can't change the past, but you can change.
Yeah.
And Paulette said more movies.
You know what I had said? I was like hanging up my movie shoes. But then when the movie came out, I was like, let's do it again, Cassie. So here's what we're thinking about right now. I like the whole
Mama B. I hope Mama B, one of the Mama B series.
You know what? I love Mama B. I'm thinking about Mama B a lot, but I think for our movies, looking at it together and building that storyline together, it just always comes out better when you get a chance to work with somebody else. But the thing about our next book, we're writing books, thinking about the cinematography of it all, right? So we don't want to write stuff that's going to be a snow scene because I already know that a snow blower machine, what it's going to do to our budget, right? So you have to kind of write things a little bit differently if you know it's going to be a movie, because you want to, like the scene where Grandma Effie, where the 3 girls are sitting with Grandma Effie and Miss Bernice comes, that was originally in the book that happens at a hospital. Well, and we had trouble getting a doctor's office. Not that the doctor wouldn't agree, but the building and the liability behind shooting in there. If somebody falls on a cord and they break their leg, who's responsible for that? Like all of those legalities and all those technicalities have to be a part now of what we consider when we're writing a book and with the movie in mind. So it's kind of interesting to kind of think that way, because when you're writing a book, the character can have this epiphany in their head, but how do you play that out on a screen is a totally different thing. I see Alita asked how many movies. We just have the one.
Says how many.
That was our very first movie, and we bit off a lot with the first movie. Most people start with a short, like maybe a 10-minute movie or a 5-minute. We just jumped all the way in and made a whole movie.
It was a whole hour, right?
It was like almost 2 hours. It was 1 hour and 48 minutes, I believe. Thank you, Paulette. I appreciate that.
Yes.
And Paulette has done quite a bit of editing for our work as well. So always a pleasure.
I just thought about something, Michelle. I don't know if y'all ever did it before. At the Christian Book Lovers Retreat, you can play Mama B. You can play Mama B, Miss Patson, Grandma BB, and then Miss Pat Geo George, her character.
Oh, that would be a lot of fun.
Y'all do a scene or something.
Pat Simmons did come as her character one night to the pajama party at CBLR.
Yeah.
And she showed out. That would be a lot of fun. Let me tell you something about Mama B. This is so funny. People think I'm Mama B. Like they think I think like her and I act like her. So somebody invited me one time to something and they were disappointed, I think, that I am not Mama B. And like when I write Mama B is very, very wise. Like it takes me a while to come up with the witty things she's going to say. I'm not that quick-witted in person. So I think they were kind of disappointed that I'm not Mama B. I want to be like Mama B, but I'm not Mama B yet.
So Michelle, are you saying that possibly moving forward you would write books now on, some of them to be movie deals?
Yeah, Cassandra and I have thought about that. We talked about it, as a matter of fact, just last week about when we want to start pulling the budget together and asking for people to contribute. When we want to start auditioning, what are the locations that we'll get in mind? Because you want to have, we had probably 5 or 6 different locations in this particular movie. And some of them, like the Grandma Effie's house, that's my house. So like, I don't want to shoot here again unless I change up some stuff in my house, right? So maybe we'll use a different room in my house that we didn't shoot with this. And so there's a couple of scenes that look like 2 different houses, but they're actually one person's house. So we're just thinking through, there's just a lot to consider. And when you're shooting at somebody's house, you're there sometimes all day from 8 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, and taking up that person's water and electricity. So you're using our water,
So will you use, when you use your characters for movie deals, this might be a hard thing to ask. You can just think about it. You don't have to answer it, or if you want to answer it. Would you get those that are maybe college students, aspiring actors, not in a sense to say don't want to pay them, but because you want your budget at a certain thing, level,
Yeah, we paid our actors a nominal fee every day. It wasn't a whole lot. But I will say this, if you want the movie, if we envision putting the movie on Netflix or some other larger network, they want at least a B or C name actor on that bid, on that paperwork, right? In order to be able to attract viewers. And so if you get even just a C-list actor, that's going to take a good chunk of your budget just to get that person to say 2 lines, right? So we had to think about, how do we want this to be positioned? Do we want to spend all our money getting this one person to come do 2 lines? Or does somebody know somebody, that can call that person, that kind of a thing. So it was kind of an interesting piece. We didn't realize how much star power meant to the networks. And so that's definitely a consideration. I think at this point, if someone wanted to, because it's not, someone could still say, we like Deacon Brown's Daughters and we want to remake it with these 3 actors. And then we would take it off of Amazon, they would remake it, and they would re-release it. It happens all the time.
Oh, okay. Well, actors and actresses that you had, they were all good.
Thank you. They were all local.
They were all really good.
We really appreciated them.
Yeah, because I was looking at that.
And can I add one thing to
that? I know what you're going to say.
What I'm gonna say?
Something about the men.
What was I gonna say?
Something about the men. I know it's gonna be something about the men.
Yes. Good looking.
Well, I will be sure to tell Cassie that you said that, because she was the one who pretty much picked all of our people, and I didn't realize how handsome a lot of those people were until I started watching. Now, there's some of mine, like they're smooth in real life. Like there's Stanley smooth, period. And Stanley's American, so I'm not going to say anything bad about him, obviously. And he's not a bad person by any means. Stanley is smooth. New Orleans is smooth too. Now, let me tell you, we did not expect New Orleans to be in the movie at all. He just showed up at the barbershop looking like that, with the top hat on and everything. And we were like, first of all, we were not even thinking that he walked in. When he walked in, everybody was like, who is this? What is he? Who is this? Like, my husband was like, you walked in here like you're going to the prom or something. What are you doing? And we all fell out laughing. We just fell out. And then it was like, okay, we got to use him in some kind of way. So yeah, we really quickly had him sign a release right there, because you can't just put people on camera. He has to sign a release, and then we put him in that little scene right there. And we wanted to tape him coming into the building, and everybody just falling out laughing. But by the time we figured out how we were going to use him, the sun had already gone down, so it wouldn't have made sense to have him walking in the dark. So it was a logistics thing. And there were so many windows in that place, because barbershops are kind of like that. Windows and mirrors and all of that plays a part in what can happen. But we cracked up when he walked in there. And he was a really good sport.
Y'all gonna have to refresh me on who that character is.
He's the one that's in the suit and the top hat. Yeah. He in the barbershop scene.
Yeah, he has the last.
I'm gonna have to roll back. Yeah. I was more looking at the conversation. I was more on the conversation than I was anything else, because that was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
But the father, Stanley's father.
Yes.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah, he's smooth too. And he has been in some of Tiffany Warren's plays, if you're familiar with her work. She's done some plays, and Andrew Flash.
Well, I've seen him.
Mm-hmm. He's been in some of her plays. Mm-hmm. He's a local actor.
But he does have 2 eyes, right?
No, actually he doesn't. He doesn't. He was, something happened. He had a childhood accident, and he only has the 1 eye. So we thought, actually at one point, I thought about him being Stanley, because he is a handsome man, and that would work really well.
Yeah, he is.
But he was a little too old for the role.
Mm-hmm.
And that would then become a major part of the storyline to me, for a person to be missing an eye and that kind of thing. So I didn't want that to become too much of the focus of the story, and so we made that choice. But he is an excellent actor.
He is.
He did a great job with his role. I mean, he did that.
Yeah, I was wondering. I say for him
all
to
right,
have that. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Quinny.
I was finna close it out.
Okay.
Go ahead. You can ask your question.
No, that was pretty much what I was just gonna say is for him to play that role. I thought he played it like very believable, and that's why I asked, did he really have one eye? Because he played that part as if he was really, had one eye.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That is his true condition, and he has been, like I said, he's a great actor. He's been in a lot of different parts and different not, I shouldn't say movies, but in the Dallas area, he's done a lot of plays.
really good. Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you, Queenie.
Thank you all for having me.
Go ahead, Queenie.
Alethea asked, where are you located?
In the Dallas area. Yeah, everybody was local.
Thank you, Michelle, for coming in. Any last words?
No, just watch it, and we prefer that you buy it or rent it because that gives us a little bit more in our pockets, I think, to kind of get the next movie going. If you really want to support us, that would be great. But if you have Amazon Prime and that's your preference, then you just go right ahead. We really want the message to get out. But if you have a choice, go ahead and rent it or buy it, because that'll definitely put us in a better position to move on and make the next movie.
I was wondering about that. Yes.
Okay.
So all y'all online,
all right.
y'all better
Is all
watch
minds
it. Yes.
Is all minds clear?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you again for having me. I appreciate you. God bless you.
Alethea, Amazon.
Thank you, Alethea. Amazon, if you go to Amazon and just look up Deacon Brown's Daughters, you'll see the book and you'll also see the movie.
I need to reread the book.
Me too.
We're going to have to read it. How about we read it and come back another time, whenever time is right, and just go from the book aspect?
That'd be fun too. I'm sure Cassie will be able to join us this next time through. That'll be fun.
All right, if all minds are clear, we're going to close out. I want to thank our special guest, Michelle Stimpson. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank Miss Ellen from ESP.
Thank you. And thank you, Queenie.
Yes, right. Thank you.
This is Queen.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, Miss Queenie. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Do I end it or you end it?